Morning, everybody. We are going to start out with a roll call here this morning, and we have two members of the board that are remote.
Okay, thank you, Chair Madrone. Supervisor Bohn?
Hey, hello.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Good morning.
Supervisor Arroyo? Here. Supervisor Wilson?
Present.
And Supervisor Madrone?
Present.
Thank you.
And so with that, before we do the salute to the flag, I just wanted to mention that we're now under the new rules from the state in regards to hybrid meetings. Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. We
March is when it begins.
are March 1.
So we're good on that one, so we don't need to go there today in terms of just cause or emergency reasons for coming in remote. But we do have two supervisors remote. Appreciate you both being able to be here. It's a wonderful thing about this hybrid approach. So with that, let's go ahead and do the salute to the flag. Please join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you very much. CIO Hayes, do we have any modifications to the agenda?
Good morning, Chairman Drone. We do not have any modifications today.
Okay, great. Well, in regards to the agenda, we do have a large consent. We have a couple proclamations and resolutions there that I'm going to read, but we'll get through that. And then we have a pretty light agenda in general, and we have a closed session item. I believe it is set for 12 noon. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. So more than likely what we're going to be doing here is doing our consent, doing public comment, and then we have two agenda items, and I imagine we'll get through all that long before 12 noon. And so we'll probably then take a break and then go into closed session. We'll read the closed sessions when we break at whatever time that is, I'm assuming, or do we have to wait till noon to read that in?
We have to wait until 12 o'clock because it is
Okay.
the time set.
All right, so we'll take our break and we'll come back at noon to read in our closed sessions. We'll break the closed session, then we'll come back to report out from those closed sessions. But we do have a light agenda today after the last one, which was very long. So grateful for that. So with that, is there any discussion from the board in regards to the consent agenda? And Nikki, if you'll help me with the Zoom, that'd be great. Any comments from members of the board here present? How about from those board members that are with us in Zoom?
Chair Madrone, I have Supervisor Bushnell with her hand up.
Supervisor Bushnell, please.
Good morning, everyone. I just really want to thank Michelle Stevens to the addition to First Five Board and for being willing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Bushnell. Anything else? Supervisor Bohn, any concerns? Okay. Thumbs up. Great. Well, with that, let's go to public comment on the consent agenda. And then after we have that, I'll read a couple proclamations. So do we have anybody in Zoom with their hands up?
Yes, Chair Madrone, we have caller 0116.
All right, 0116. You have the floor, *6 to unmute. You've got 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Hello, this is Ash Teeter, LostCoastPopulist.com. On the consent calendar, I'm commenting on, first off, it's number 31, request for proposals regarding edible food recovery program management. Just wanted to say that as far as recovering edible food at the residential level through the composting program, I have doubts. The plans, also to go from supermarkets with the expired items that they're required to throw away, I can definitely see the merit in that. But to recover, sometimes rotten food from residential circumstances seems like it might just be a big waste of money. Not surprising that it's a statewide plan, and the state's kind of been shooting from the hip on a lot of their plans lately, it seems. I don't know if the money might be better used on more community gardens and stuff like that as far as the residential side of it. Also just noticed that in the consent calendar, I think it's number 18, ending the COVID-19 emergencies on there. So I just wanted to say it's about time, and thank you all for finally ending that, even though it's been over for a while here. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. And seeing no other hands or even participants other than that in the Zoom, we'll go to those here in the audience today. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? I will say that I'm going to be reading a resolution to honor Julie Fillman for her retirement, and then also the Dental Health Month proclamation. But is there anyone here today that would like to come up and make public comment? Please come on up to the podium or over to the side of the room, and you can line up there. But welcome, and please let us know what consent item you wanted to speak on, and your name if you prefer also.
Hello, my name is Andrew Feldon. I'm a
Sorry, hang on. Okay, we'll get that one. There we go. Try that.
Is that better?
Yep. good.
Awesome. My name is Andrew Feldon. I'm a clerical supervisor with Humboldt County Social Services. I'm here to talk on the agenda item honoring Julie Fillman's retirement. I was a brand new worker in 2014, and Julie was the clerical person in that unit. I was super nervous, and she made me feel absolutely welcome in that unit. She made sure I had all the supplies I needed, made sure to introduce me to everybody. And in my time working for the county, I have seen her continue to do that over and over again every time we get a new person as part of our team. For the last 10 months, I've had the honor to be her last supervisor at the county. And not only does she treat the team members like that, she treats our community like that. Every time she works with a client, she is super, super professional, make sure to answer all of their questions, make them feel heard, respected. I just wanted to say thank you, Julie. You're going to be absolutely missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Eric Kanega, and I'm a program manager with DHHS Social Service Branch, and I'm here to talk about Julie Fillman's retirement as well, consent calendar agenda item number 1. I started in the county in 2006, and Julie was already a foundation there. And one of the really neat things that happened with me is that water cooler gossip type stuff. So I remember just kind of, it wasn't really a water cooler, it was where the mail is. And Julie and I would often meet there as our comings and goings, and we didn't really know each other at all, but we would make this small talk. And she was really just a positive, supportive person. And one day we were talking, and she looks at me and she says, "Do you know my name?" And I was like, "Oh my God, you're Julie, right?" And I was a little nervous because actually I wasn't really sure what her name was, but I thought that's what it was. And then from there, our relationship kind of bloomed and blossomed. And what I would like to just say is she really creates this culture of wellness at Social Service Branch. And when people found out she was retiring, people under my purview as a manager, they're like, "I can't imagine what social services is going to be like without Julie Fillman. She is an institution." And that just positive energy, that niceness, that conversational piece, that water cooler talk just goes such a long way. And I'm just so thankful for her, and I wish her the best of luck on her retirement. And I know she's going to have many happy years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Ryan Bishop, Social Services Deputy Branch Director, and I'm here for Julie Fillman as well. She has been amazing since I've been here. She's been here. Our clerical groups and units are really the backbone of our institution, and the heavy lifting that they do every day is incredible. And when we have somebody like Julie here, a commitment of over 20 years to the county, it's incredible, and it deserves recognition today. And I just want to say thank you, Julie. Thank you for your commitment to our organization, to our community, and to me, and supporting me in my position as well. So thank you, Julie, very much.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Vogel. I'm the program coordinator for oral health in the nursing division of DHHS. And I'm here to thank you for taking the time to recognize Children's Dental Health Month, which is February. There's a lot of good information in the proclamation, but I'd just like to give a little shout out to the organizations that serve children and provide dental care to them every day. And that includes Open Door Community Health Centers in Eureka and Fortuna, United Indian Health Services in Arcata, the Scotia Bluffs Clinic, Kamau Dental Clinic in Hoopa, Redwoods Rural Dental Clinic in Redway. Additionally, there are organizations that support in-class toothbrushing and classroom education, which is really important to our youth. And that includes Changing Tides, North Coast Children's Services, the Tribal Head Start programs, Humboldt County Office of Education, and the Tooth Program through RCAA. For these organizations, every month is Children's Dental Health Month, and we are all grateful for their work. Thank you for acknowledging this month.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I'm hoping that Julie would be willing to come on up to the podium, and we're going to read this lovely retirement resolution in honor of your retirement. Thank you. Welcome, Julie. So I'll go ahead and read this and then present that to you. And if you have some comments, that'd be great also. Thank you. So, whereas Julie Philman was hired as an extra help vocational assistant with the Humboldt County Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, in August of 2000, and whereas she was promoted to a regular vocational assistant in 2001, and then reclassified as an office assistant 2 in 2014, and whereas during her more than 22-year tenure with DHHS, Julie has worked for Child Welfare Services, the General Relief Program, and has been at the front reception desk for Social Services, Health and Nutritional Services as the first person clients see when they come in the door. And whereas Julie has extensive clerical experience and is known as someone who's always willing to share her skills with other staff, and whereas her supervisor said Julie is someone who has always worked hard to serve community residents in a compassionate and professional manner and listens to clients' needs to make sure they are connected to the best services to help them live better lives, and whereas Julie is looking forward to retirement and plans to spend time gardening, volunteering with local community organizations, lunching with friends, and traveling to new places. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes, honors, and expresses our gratitude for Julie Philman and her years of dedication to the county, clients, and the community, and wishes her a long and happy retirement. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been almost... I feel very appreciated. Thank you very much. I had no idea this many people were going to speak. My boss, and his boss, and that was pretty sweet. And almost the entire 22 years were a positive experience. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. And then I'm going to go ahead and read Dental Health Month proclamation, and then we can present that to you after.
Chair
Yes.
Madrone, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if Supervisor Bohn wanted to say anything.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Supervisor Bohn.
Yeah, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the frontline workers dispatch. This is the first people that people see. Julie was one of the front desk, and that's the first impression people are going to get of our organization when they're needing the services that DHHS provides and what Julie brought forward. And as you notice with people talking, we recognize a lot of people, and usually their management and things like that. But the engine that runs this whole operation are the frontline people. I really want to thank Julie for that, and I realize that because we have a lot of people pushing the buttons, but if you guys weren't there to handle it all, things wouldn't go as smoothly. And I know that it's not always smoothly, as she said, most of the 22 years, and that's probably the way anything goes. But I appreciate all that time with the county. Enjoy your lunching with friends. Sounds like a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bohn. And Supervisor Bushnell, did you care to speak?
Just congratulations and thanks for all your hard work.
Great. Okay, and we're good here at this point on this one? Go ahead, Supervisor Arroyo.
Shoot, I'll jump in. Julie, you sound amazing. I'm so sad that I didn't get a chance to interact with you more, but hope you have a beautiful and happy retirement. And I love hearing about that culture of warmth and friendliness, and I hope that that inspires people to carry that forward.
That's great. Supervisor Wilson.
I was going to wait till the end of this to do this, so I guess we'll have to hit the button twice. I actually really appreciate this sort of ceremony that we do with relationship to the retirements of our long-term employees, mostly because it's a recognition of really just a cycle of folks that move through this institution for the betterment of the entire community, and especially when we're talking about folks that are working in DHHS, which are, and I use this term every time almost, which is really helping sewing the frayed fabrics of our society back together again and holding it all together. I mean, this local governance and all the workforce that is in local governments just really keep the wheels on the bus, keep civil society running, and we often just assume that it's all going to work, and it doesn't actually all work without all the folks working really hard to make it work. And I just want to thank you for your commitment to get through it long enough to make it to retirement. Appreciate that very much. Thanks.
Well, that's great. And I think I heard a request for a supplemental budget for water coolers. Was that something else? What a cheap expense to be able to bring everybody together, right? Frankly. So anyway, that was a nice little piece of information. All right, so we're going to read the proclamation for Dental Health Month. And this is a little bit long, but all very important stuff, and appreciate you being here today. Whereas February is the National Children's Dental Health Month, a time to acknowledge and support efforts to improve the oral health of our most vulnerable Humboldt County residents, including children and pregnant people. And whereas tooth decay is the most common disease found in children and is preventable when caregivers assist children with toothbrushing twice daily for 2 minutes using fluoridated toothpaste, flossing daily, and establishing routine dental checkups. And whereas all teeth, including baby teeth, are important for eating, talking, and smiling, and untreated tooth decay can have detrimental effects on children's quality of life, performance in school, and success in life. And whereas 1 in 4 children in Humboldt County will start kindergarten with untreated dental decay, with the greatest burden of oral health issues falling on historically marginalized communities of color and immigrant families. And whereas it is imperative we support pregnant individuals in establishing good oral hygiene practices for themselves before their babies are born by securing a dental home, providing information on proper perinatal nutrition, and providing education on how to care for the oral health of their children at all stages of development. And whereas babies are not born with the germs that cause tooth decay, as oral bacteria is contagious and can be passed from caregivers to children through the sharing of utensils, water bottles, and toothbrushes. And whereas Humboldt County supports systems change that create better access to fluoride varnish, dental sealants, and fluoridated water regardless of income or location of residence within the county. And whereas we commend the healthcare professionals in Humboldt County who provide dental care and care coordination to the most vulnerable while simultaneously acknowledging the dental workforce shortage that has created limited dental access for many residents in our county. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors hereby calls upon community members, government agencies, educators, and medical and dental providers of Humboldt County to work together to address the oral health disparities in the county, beginning with our most vulnerable residents, including children and pregnant people. I want a round of applause for all our Okay, and with that, is there anything else from the board members in regards to the consent agenda before we hear a motion?
I'll move consent.
Okay,
I'll second.
so we have a motion to approve by,
Chair Madrone.
Excuse
We
me.
have Supervisor Bushnell would like to speak.
yes, Supervisor Bushnell, please.
Thank you.
We'll come
I'm
back to it.
sorry, this is a little odd, but I'd really like to thank Jennifer Renner for her work on the Fire Safe Council. She's a very dedicated member of our communities with fire, and I just really want to say thank you and appreciate her.
Thank you, Supervisor Bushnell, appreciate that. Any other comments from board members before we go to a motion? All right, we'll go back to the motion, and we have a motion, and we have a second from Supervisor Arroyo. With that, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Chair Madrone. Supervisor Bohn,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bushnell,
Yes.
Supervisor Madrone,
Yes.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, great. Well, that completes our consent agenda, which was long, but nothing was pulled, so we got through that pretty quickly. Thank you, folks, for being here to honor our employees. Appreciate you. And so with that, we'll go to public comment on non-agenda items, and we'll start with those in Zoom. If you want to make a comment on non-agenda items, please put *9 to raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time. Oh, there's one. Okay, we'll go to 0116. You've got 3 minutes, *6 to unmute. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, this is Ash Peter, LostCoastPopulist.com. I'm commenting on non-agenda items. This evening, City of Eureka is going over the new homeless tent camp proposal. And I just want to say that encourage the county to work side by side with the city in this endeavor. Try to make the program, a hand up, not just a handout. What I mean is having some kind of vocational rehabilitation built into the program and placing it, in a location where it's not just, an isolated tent city where there's, a program for the vocation side of it, like adjacent to it. As I mentioned before, more community gardens are good ideas. Maybe find a location so that there can be like a thriving community garden next to it. And there's also the tiny home aspect to the plan. And that does kind of create issues of equality regarding building code and economic status. Perhaps deregulation of crazy state building policy would help create more housing locally. But if we only have certain economic classes being able to build shelter outside of state code, then the practice is ultimately discriminatory towards other members of the community. And back to vocational stuff, historically our community, or in our community, I believe is New Life Service Company. They kind of evolved from rehabilitating homeless population that was down at the South Spit and Lighthouse Ranch. So it might be good to develop a program that gives incentives to local service-related businesses to hire and train people who are experiencing homelessness right now. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have 0260, *6 to unmute. There you go.
Good morning, Thomas Mulder here. I just want to confirm you can hear me there, Chair.
Yes, we can.
So I haven't commented for a while. I haven't followed for a while. Been busy, like many of people. I think these times that we're going through right now with Mother Nature really testing our patience and our ability to have our emergency preparedness in line. I think it's really good to see in some areas of the community that the community and government have been working together to get roads opened and supplies to people. With that also, I think it's really good that we live in Humboldt County where it promotes rural living. Some people may call it sprawling, but we have the ability to maintain our own roads and keep our roads open. We have the ability to get our own water and actually even do our own power supplies. So I think it's very imperative that we keep those values strong and property rights strong in Humboldt County. And lastly, there was this thing, I remember it's probably almost been a year, like climate action plan or something like that was all big in the, what you guys were talking about, and I haven't heard anything about it for a long time. But I remember there was some data in there where they were trying to exclude industrial uses within Humboldt County and kind of exclude numbers because it didn't meet the agenda. So it'd be nice to one day, whenever that comes back around, to have that conversation again. But continue supporting rural Humboldt and property rights. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And there are no others in Zoom, so is anyone here today in the audience who would like to make a public comment on non-agenda items? Please come forward. This is your chance. And seeing none for that, we'll go ahead and close that item. And now we'll move on to department reports. I-1, which is the resolution for exception to the 180-day wait period due to temporary employment of retired annuitant as extra help senior legal office assistant. 4/5 vote required. So is this, who do we have presenting from probation? I believe Sean is here? Yes.
I can take this, Chair Madrone.
Okay, great.
This is very
Thank you,
procedural. This is a requirement in order to meet CalPERS specifications, and approving this would allow for some continuity of services in probation. And with that, it's for your board's vote.
Great. Thank you very much.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to move staff recommendation from Supervisor Bohn, second from Supervisor Bushnell. Is there any other comments from board members? Are there any comments from those that are on Zoom? Seeing no hands up there. Anybody here in the audience today that would like to speak on this item? Procedural in nature. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second. Please do a roll call vote. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, Chair Madrone. So we'll start with you, Supervisor Madrone, or Chair Madrone.
Yes, and they do rhyme. Yes.
Supervisor Arroyo. Yes. Supervisor Bushnell.
Yes, and thank you for being willing to come back after retirement.
Supervisor Wilson.
Yes.
And Supervisor Bohn.
10-4.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Great. Thank you very much. The next item is brought to us by the sheriff, and it is item 2, and that is a bid authorization for the Humboldt County Community Corrections Reentry Resource Center construction project. And we have Sheriff Hansel here today to present.
Yes, this is actually a huge team effort here. Not only the sheriff's office is our agenda item, but Public Works, probation, and DHHS are all partners in this A63 project. This is a 7-year in the making project.
Wow.
And we have seen this progress and slow, and having to keep coming back to inform this board of the status as well as the price changes. As we know, the $20 million project is now a $28 million project. And so we're thankful that that we have increased over the last 7 years some of the financing. We also have AB 109 money through the CCP that they've provided close to $4 million to cover that that deficit, so to speak. So that is good. We are short $1 million when it comes down to it, and so the county will be on the hook for that. But this is our 863 jail expansion and day reporting center project that was provided in 2015 for our county to get some relief from the AB 109 inmates that came to us through the state prison. And the original goal and design for this facility is still maintained, where we are going to have a facility that inmates and people in custody can come in and get programming and treatment and help while they're in custody and have a step-down process. Right now, the Day Reporting Center is at 404 H Street. And as we discussed in the past, when someone does get out of custody, they are told, hey, your day reporting center is down here, probation, go check in with them. They're there to support you in your efforts to be successful on probation. And sometimes they'll go right there. Sometimes they exit and go the opposite direction. So we want to make sure that the pathways are there while they're in custody, that they know exactly the programs they're going to be in, and they know exactly what they have coming to them and support for them while they're still in custody. We hope that that will encourage people to stick with the programs, and we're going to see less recidivism. So that's the goal of the 863 project, and this is the first step. We need to open this up for bid now. And so you'll see the timeline in there. You'll see the plans. Over the course of the last couple of years, the plans have changed, so we can reduce the cost of this project. And so we are, again, thankful that we're here to this stage here so we can put it out to bid and hopefully get ground broken by the end of the year and this facility built by 2025.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Bohn, and then Supervisor Bushnell, and then Supervisor Wilson, and Arroyo.
Well, I really appreciate I think Sheriff Downey brought this forward, and then Sheriff Hotzel's carried the water on it with Bill Damiano, and now with Sean. It's changed hands quite a bit, and with DHHS. And I think the sheriff said it best when that one block between I and H, how many people can get lost when they're supposed to check in. And the new facility, if you look at it, there's going to be a place for job fairs. There's going to be places for DHHS. It expands our mental health capabilities from what we've already done upstairs. And I guess I'm the only one left around when this all started. So we were excited 7-8 years ago, started talking about it 10 years ago. And we were extremely excited and would have loved to have seen this happen 5 years ago. And I want to thank Ed Wilkinson for coming back out of retirement to help steamroll this project for as long as he has and did. It's a huge project, and it's kind of exciting to actually see this come to fruition and put this thing out to bid and get a contractor out there and start making a difference. So I thank the sheriff, DHHS, probation, everybody for sticking with it because it's a big project.
Thank you, Supervisor Bohn. Supervisor Bushnell.
Supervisor Bushnell, you're on mute.
Thank you. Good morning, Sheriff Hansel. Thank you. I just have some questions about the budget. So in the funding source, it says general fund is 30,000. But I'm wondering how will the 2020 finance plan be repaid, and then the anticipated additional appropriations of $1 million something. So all of that, would that be coming out of general fund? And also congratulations on this. It's much needed. I just wanted some clarifications.
Yeah, part of what we're going to go forward right now, we're paying $100,000 plus per year for rent for our data reporting center. And so we can reallocate that money to offset some of those ongoing costs, or repaying the finance plan. We haven't necessarily worked out how that's going to work, and as far as what we're going to do with that savings from this, from rent. But this will be I believe, a benefit to the county because, one, this is a state-funded building. It is essentially a state building for 20 years. After 20 years, it becomes a county building. And so we will have a $30 million building, and it'll be the county's building in the entirety. So I think this is money well spent. When it comes down to it, again, this is another $1 million that the county does have to come up with, and we do have that identified through the finance plan. And when you're thinking long term, when you think that there's not a whole lot of county government buildings being built right now, when you're thinking about a vision and a future, we are going to need the space. We are going to need the 44 beds. We're going to need the mental health space. We're going to need the programming space. And this will be a great facility to have for this county to deal with the long-term issues when it comes to incarceration and programming.
Thank you for that, and I understand all that. I just want to clarify, if you could, the hit to general fund over certain amounts of years would be around $9 million. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, well, that's what it says here, although it only says general fund appropriations are 30,000. So I just was trying to clarify that.
Yes, Supervisor, I'm sorry, CAO Hayes.
Yeah, so there is a potential cost of staffing, as indicated in the staff report, of $2.6 million annually for 20 FTE. That would be an ongoing expense. But also, as indicated in the staff report, the sheriff understands that we are under some financial constraints right now and not really sure what the next couple of years will look like for the organization. And so he has developed a contingency plan where he can repurpose some of his current staffing levels if so required. For the finance plan, in 2024, we will be rolling that into long-term debt, which will have a debt service payment owed on it annually. I will certainly try to work with the sheriff to tap some of his resources that I think are probably allowable for that repayment expense. But should those alternate revenue sources not be available, then it would be a general fund expense to repay the $3 million in finance plan usage.
Thank you for that, CAO Hayes. Thank you, Sheriff Hansel, for the update. I think this is a great, addition to Humboldt County. And yes, you're correct. There aren't many county buildings that are being acquired right now. And I look forward to seeing this come start in the end of 2024.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Supervisor Bushnell. And we have Supervisor Wilson.
I appreciate the conversation in this, and we've had a few over the years, and we're far enough down this road that, we're liable to the state in terms of we can't reverse course. Otherwise, we could, but it would have its own implications with relationship to that. And I do appreciate the financing element of this, and I had questions with the CAO about our bonding capacities and our impacts to our bonding capacity, mainly because this isn't the sum total of our vision for the future of Humboldt County facilities. And I want to emphasize that the last 3 significant facilities we built, or if you include this one, was this and juvenile hall and the animal shelter. All of them are incarcerated or incarceration adjacent, facilities. And I think that we need to do better. Those are important, but we really have to think about all of the other facilities that this county needs with relationship to the services it provides to our community. And I'm hoping that we broaden our vision for new facilities as opposed to leasing facilities to something other than things that are incarceration and incarceration adjacent activities. that being said, I'm supportive of moving forward with this, and I look forward to the services it provides.
Yeah. And just for clarification on that too, I mean, I completely agree with you. You know, it's, as far as county buildings go, but as you are aware, we have to take advantage of the things that are offered to us. Both the juvenile hall and the jail expansion were grants based upon the state realigning responsibilities to the county. And so they realigned the responsibilities. They also realigned money for us. So we had to take advantage of that. And I hope that they do the same thing with mental health. Since they're looking at realigning a lot of the responsibilities to county, I'm hoping that they provide us that necessary element of housing the mental health as well as treatment of the mental health.
And if I may respond, that's all true, but it speaks to just because there's money available to do stuff and we should take advantage of it doesn't absolve us of lack of vision to do the bonding, do the investments, do the other things on the other facilities that we need to do, and seek the grants and all the other stuff in the other arenas. And so I appreciate the work you've done in that space, and it takes staff time. It's not just staff out of you. It's a staff in the public works. It's in where money may sometimes feel like we might have a lot of it coming in, but we don't necessarily have as a lot of staff, and so it is actually a resource that we have to and just time and devotion to these things. And I just want to emphasize that I think we as an institution we're going to have to, I think we need to broaden our vision. And I'm talking to you, but it's like I'm looking at you, Billy, and that's like, really, Billy, you're doing your job in your silo. So I'm speaking to a broader issue, and it's not to fault you because I think you're doing a good job of moving these facilities forward. I'm just speaking to our board and to the community that we all need to work on broadening our vision about what new facilities we put our efforts into. So that's all.
Totally agree.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Thank you for clarifying the cost savings for the rent. I was going to ask about that. So did you say that's $100,000 annually?
I believe it's $120,000 annually.
Okay, and that's not reflected in this staff report at this time?
I believe it's mentioned in here somewhere, but it's 6 pages, so it's in there somewhere.
Okay, I may have missed it also, but thank you for clarifying that. So I guess I'm a little anxious, I'll admit, about the 20 positions. As much as I understand the need in the context of the project, that does make me anxious given our current situation. And then this question about the anticipated future funding, I will say gives me a little heartburn as well, just because we're clearly saying here that we don't know if that will be the amount.
Right.
And so as we were discussing this, I realized I still had a question about, so it sounds like the funds are available in the 2020 finance plan, which can be financed through, as long-term debt. But if it goes over that, what are our options if it's significantly more?
We would need to return to your board to have a bigger conversation about that. We do still have some capacity in the finance plan, but we also have an end date that is fast approaching. So we have certainly been working with Public Works on what projects are contingent on the finance plan and trying to sort of expedite those projects so that we can utilize those funds to the best of our abilities. Should it go extremely over and fall outside of the timeline that the finance plan would be available as a resource, then that would be a bigger conversation we would need to return to the board at a later date.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
If I may, my understanding of this project prior to being on this board was that it was always described as a jail expansion. And my understanding from what you're saying and from all of what I've read is that this is really about a step down or an alternative way of handling certain people who could reintegrate into society differently. Is that
That is correct.
Would
These
you
are
say
the
that's
low-lying,
correct?
low-lying offenders.
Okay.
This is minimum security facility
Mm-hmm.
that will have access to program space at the day reporting center. And a lot of the out-of-custody programs, the idea is to have them while they're in custody. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is again, will free up more space in our existing jail to house those serious and violent offenders and take the ones that can transition, that are doing low-lying offenses and time for that, allow them to get their programming done while they're in custody.
Okay. Yeah, that certainly seems like there's a need for it in our community. I would echo some of the concerns, the more systemic concerns that Supervisor Wilson raised, but I know that that's, we're talking about a bid here.
Yeah.
And that systemic change is not necessarily part of the scope of this project, but it sounds like it'll offer some good reintegration opportunities,
Yes.
which is important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Thank you through the chair. Sheriff Hansel, this facility, like you just said, is really going to be helpful for the main jail as far as some of the people that will be housed in this new facility don't need to be in our main jail, and it'll open up lots of area over there.
That is correct.
Okay. How many beds currently do you have in the main jail?
We have 417 beds in the main jail.
Okay. And, okay, well, thank you so much. And Supervisor Madrone, do you want to wait until after public comment for a motion? Because I'm willing to make a motion for staff recommendations.
Yeah, let's wait for public comment. Thanks for asking. Okay, I see Supervisor Bohn's hand up, and then did Supervisor Wilson, you wanted, okay. Supervisor Bohn, and then Supervisor Wilson.
Yeah, again, after working on this, and I think the misnomer of jail expansion came from it being connected to the jail, but I remember there were so many departments involved. I do take I don't look at the animal shelters and incarceration facility. I look at it as a throughput facility because they do a lot of adoptions. And having had a dog up there years ago, and they also do our animal control does a great service, so I don't think we're sentencing anything 5 to life on the dogs. But we're also replacing a lot of facilities that were our oldest facilities. And I think as we move forward, the systemic changes, yes, that we have to work on that. We have to work on mental health. And I think as we're working on that, we're doing that. But in the discussions we had up to this, it's just what was mentioned by other supervisors. With the new laws worried about systemic changes, we've changed a lot. We don't send people to state prison. We have, just recently, we had somebody that was looking at 18 years in our county jail because they're sending them back here if they don't qualify for state prison. And we've become a quasi-prison. And it's really a tough situation to have misdemeanors, 3-month, 6-month sentences put in with the hardened part of our jail system. So this is going to be a great facility. It's going to expand the beds availability. And again, it's going to be minimum. I know 20 staff is the optimum, but it is a minimum facility. So I think the sheriff's going to be able to work around a lot of that. And it's just the way things are going with the current changes that they're making on the state levels, trying to meet those systemic changes that are people not sending people to prison, but having them serve in county jail and get released into the county. We're having a lot of recidivism and a lot of issues with that. So I 10 years of listening to this, and then, we got denied our first round by a technicality, and then we were accepted in the second round. So I applaud the sheriff's department and the staff that stuck with it to make sure we could upgrade facilities that are needed and meet the community needs.
Thank you, Supervisor Bohn. And so I think we're going to wait for additional comments from the board till after we hear from the public. At this point, I just wanted to make a couple of very brief comments. One, thank you, Sheriff Hansel and the whole team for all your efforts to bring this forward. And I am glad that what its actual role is. I think that's very much a part of our strategic planning. And, we haven't done a lot of strategic planning the last couple of years with COVID. I mean,
right.
we've just been responding, to one emergency after another, not just COVID, but all these storms and earthquakes and everything else. So it is important that we continue to move forward with these kinds of projects, especially where it's designed to help people move back into society. I think that's great. We haven't looked at our facilities master plan for quite some time, and as a board, we're going to be doing that very soon. We have strategic planning coming up as a board here over the next several weeks. And I know these kinds of topics, systemic issues and all the other facilities that are ancient that need repair or rebuild, all of that will be on the table that we're going to be looking at as a board, and hopefully freshen up our financing plan, our facilities master plan, and things like that over the coming months. I absolutely understand the opportunistic element of these things, that you can have a very nice large laundry list, but at the end of the day, you move on those things that are possible. Right. Glad to see that the state's starting to provide a little bit of money along with all the prisoners they've been sending us. That's long overdue. I would think it maybe needs to be $400 million rather than $4 million, but that's right. We'll keep working on that with our legislative representatives.
Thank you.
Because there certainly is a great need, and it's been interesting to me to watch how during COVID so many prisoners were released. Yep. And, they started talking about shutting down the prisons. They're shutting down the prison work camps like Eel Rock and other places. And these programs were not only great for the prisoners in terms of getting out of prison and getting into a work camp and learning skills, right, but they were great for the county in terms of maintaining our roads, vegetation maintenance, our parks, all kinds of things. So, instead of closing the prisons, how about take yours back, so that we're not so overwhelmed. But
yes, we're
dealing with these things as we can based on the different funding that becomes available. And I totally understand that. As far as SWAP, is this going to help get SWAP back? We lost SWAP during COVID quite a bit too because of all kinds of reasons from COVID. But are we rebuilding that program? Because I know Public Works, we have a desperate need for work crews and such.
We certainly do. So our SWAP program is up and running. What we need is our judges to sentence people to jail, essentially, for there to be an alternative for those people to have out of custody time credit. And,
that's what I heard, that they were stopping that sentencing because of
yes,
COVID.
Right. And so there's going to be, with the COVID emergency now over as of tomorrow, we'll be talking with the judges. We'll be redoing some things within our facility to make that more accommodating and making sure that they are aware that there is space available, and that for the people that need to be sentenced to jail, they can sentence people to jail. And then we make the determination whether or not they're eligible for SWAP.
Great. And often these are low-level offense individuals that fit right in with the jail expansion project that we're talking about. So thanks for that. I know you're very well aware of our need in that regards. And it also is a pathway for people instead of just, I suspect that just not sentencing them doesn't necessarily lower recidivism. And so, whereas these kinds of programs where you build skills, you go out and you do these projects, you drive along the roads that weekend and you point to your family, look, I did that. I mean, that whole self-worth part of that work is really critical and important as well. So with that, we'll go to Zoom. I do not see anybody in Zoom anymore. They've left us all. So anybody here today that would like to make any comment on this agenda item in front of us, please come forward. This is your opportunity. Director Beck.
Good morning, Chair Madrone, Connie Beck, Health and Human Services Director. I want to thank Sheriff Hansel for continuing to work on this important facility for the last 7 years. I think myself that we needed this 10 years ago. So I appreciate that we're able to move this forward now. This is really going to help DHHS staff to work better and engage more people coming out of the jail. So I just think it's really important, and I appreciate all of the work. I know it's expensive, and so I hope that we can just continue to move it along because it's really needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Chair, members of the board, Sean Brenneman, Chief Probation Officer. I share some of your concerns around the cost of staffing in the future. I do, and I know that's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge to fill those positions even if you had the money. But I think we need the capacity. And so we build the structure 5 years from now, whenever it gets done, I mean, I'm not being optimistic. I went through the juvenile hall process, but at some point you'll be able to, judge your capacity both on the local funding level and staffing about what you can do. But if we don't have the facility, we can't do that. And one of the things that you look in our facility right now, the thing that we're missing the most is programming space, ability for people to work on improving their lives. The thing I like to think about is there should be no wasted days in custody. You should always be working forward to coming back into the community, to making yourself a more successful version of yourself. We don't have the space for those people to really do that right now. And so this will allow our reentry programs to be enhanced. We already have a lot of staff at the Day Reporting Center, and this will allow them to work, engage with the people in the facility at an earlier time, and they'll be able to transition just smoothly back into the community, and that's what we really want. So I would encourage that we move forward on this, but I do recognize the cost in the future, and you're just going to have to evaluate that at the time and what our capacity is. But I would not miss out on this opportunity. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Emmy Botzler-Rogers, Behavioral Health Director. Just echoing what's already been said, but I just want to emphasize how critical it is for us as behavioral health providers to sometimes access those very brief windows of opportunity to engage with people that are struggling. Currently, we are working in the jail in not the greatest conditions. I think this new facility would allow for an expansion, sure, but also just more humane and treatment-oriented opportunities. And I think that the component of being able to coordinate with other providers and ensure a discharge plan or a release plan that allows for connection to services is just more important than I can even say. So if we have opportunity to have a facility that supports our staff, supporting individuals in custody, I just think this is really important. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, and seeing no other commenters here in the room, I'll bring it back to the board. I've got Supervisor Wilson and then Bushnell in the queue. Supervisor Wilson.
I just want to thank everybody for this, but I'm glad also that we're going to be looking at a bigger vision with relationship to the county. I mean, this is the largest structure in the city.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be twice as big in terms of, so when we think about just like the imprint on our society with relationship to these structures and what it says about ourselves, and where we set our priorities, I think it's something we just need to think about. Again, I support this moving forward, but I also strongly support that we think about other opportunities for facility expansion and facility remakes. So we have staff and citizens that work in facilities that are just old and falling apart at every level all over the place. And so anyways, this is an expansion of a jail, even though we don't call it that. I mean, we just talked about how it creates more beds. That's just that there's more people that will be incarcerated, and it's just something we just have to think about. But I am supportive of moving this forward. Again, I will say the animal shelter is a form of incarceration for animals, and I just want to say our buildings are incarcerating animals, kids, and adults, and that's where we've been focusing our building on, and I just want to get us moving in a new direction. Thanks.
I think we all look forward to our strategic planning effort and looking at our facilities. So thank you for that. And Supervisor Bushnell.
Thank you. Through the chair, Supervisor Wilson, yes, the animal shelter is a form of incarceration, but you also can think of it as those animals sometimes don't have a place to be, aren't being fed and aren't being housed, right, and are out in the weather. I have 3.5 feet of snow right now, so I appreciate having that animal shelter. I also want to say that I wanted to call attention to the finance just because I want it to be known that, this is going to come from general fund at some point. I'm very supportive, but down the road, I don't want to say, well, it didn't say that. And so it's not that I don't support it. I just wanted it to be known. We're going to have to make way for it and room for it. I also really appreciate the public comment from our staff. I agree with you, all three of you, very much that this work needs to be done. And with that, I'm going to make a motion for staff recommendations.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve staff recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Bohn. And I don't see any other comments, so we'll do a roll call vote on this. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I did have a comment. I just
Please,
didn't get
Supervisor
in the queue.
Arroyo. Yep, sorry.
Actually, it's a question. So I'm, in looking at these drawings of the facility, it's not clear to me if there's much of a focus on essentially helping people detox. I know we don't have enough facilities for that, and the reality is that a lot of people essentially detox in jail.
That's correct.
And so I'm wondering if you could speak to, you know, if people are low-level offenders and they're in this side of the facility, how will those services be provided and where? And I know this is talking about the bid documents, but I'm just looking for the space for that.
Yeah, so we do have a medical facility inside our main jail. So if someone is going through bad DTs, detoxing, that we do have a medical facility where they can be monitored close by nursing staff. Sometimes it's just kicking it, you know, in a dorm, and we understand that. And so that's the good thing about these 44 beds is that that we can design them however the need is for the facility. And we could have a focus on mental health, focus on detox. We can have focus on a lot of different things within those dorms. So it is definitely on our mind. You know, when it comes to the jail, I often refer to it as the gift of jail, because just like it said, okay, though it's hard for some people to realize, some people need that 30 days in custody in order to get sober-minded, to get back on their mental health meds, to get away from the drugs so they can be clear-headed to make a decision about what's best for their future. And so it is something that we're going to need more and more beds as we go down the road, because I don't see things getting better in that arena. So detox is definitely on our minds, and definitely a part of our facility planning.
So you are planning to admit folks, admit is a very medical term, but you're planning to accommodate folks who need both to detox and who have severe mental health circumstances that they're in, where they're going to need treatment. All of that is going to be part of the mix.
Yes, all
Okay.
of that. Yes, it's all a part of our existing facility, and so it'll translate over into this facility as well.
It's very sad to say that folks who have those medical conditions may end up needing to be in custody, at least for some period of time.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart that we're a society where that's the case, but I can definitely anticipate that there's a need for that as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we've gone around the circle, and we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Madrone. Supervisor Arroyo.
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson.
Yes.
Supervisor Madrone.
Yes.
Supervisor Bushnell.
Yes.
And Supervisor Bohn.
Yep.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Yes, Sheriff Hansel.
Chair Madrone, I just want to thank Public Works. They are doing all the heavy lifting in this, just like it was talked about with Supervisor Wilson. You know, we don't have a lot of bandwidth in the Public Works arena, and a lot of the focus has been on this facility. Jake Johnson has been the lead from the get-go, and Jake and our retired annuitant Ed Wilkinson are shouldering this entire project, and we really appreciate their leadership and the time and dedication. But Public Works is the one that's really doing all the heavy lifting, and will continue to do that to get this thing built over the next 2 years. So we really want to appreciate Sean Meehan, Tom Matson, and Jake Johnson. So appreciate the opportunity to recognize them.
Thank you for doing that. And I believe with that, we're at the end of our agenda for this part of the meeting, and we're going to recess, and we'll be back here at 12 noon to read into the record the closed session that we're going to go into and have public comment at that time. So we'll be recessed till 12 noon. Thank you. Well, welcome back from recess, and we have a closed session item, and we're going to have the county council read that into the record.
Thank you, Chair Madrone. It is the intention of the board to meet in closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D1 in order to discuss existing litigation in the case of Pepper Lopez versus County of Humboldt, Humboldt County Superior Court Case Number CV 2201798.
Thank you very much. And at this point, we'll take public comment from those that are in Zoom. And there is nobody in Zoom. And we'll take comment from those here in the room. And there is nobody here to comment in the room. And so we are going to adjourn to closed session. We will be back in an hour or less, I suspect. Half hour?
I would say 15 minutes to half an hour.
15 minutes to a half hour. Okay, so we'll be back probably before 12:30, and then we'll read out any actions that are reportable. We are in recess. Welcome back. We are out of recess, and we're going to have a report out from the closed session.
Thank you, Chair Madrone. With regard to item L1, the board voted 4-0 with Supervisor Bohn absent to authorize the risk manager to enter into an agreement with Liebert Cassidy Whitmore for defense of the case of Pepper Lopez versus County of Humboldt, Humboldt County Superior Court Case Number CV 2201798.
Thank you for that, and we are now adjourned.